Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm the National Coordinator for the AustraliaOne Party. And joining me today, we have Ros Nealon-Cook. She's a psychologist in New South Wales, who's also trained in functional medicine. She has a former career in computer science and business, and also has research experience in artificial intelligence. Thank you for joining me today, Ros.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. It's nice to see you.
And you. So the reason why I've asked Ros to join us today is because she's recently lost her licence by the Psychology Council in New South Wales because she'd uploaded 2 videos. And essentially, she was concerned about the censorship that's currently going on, as well as the detrimental impact these lockdowns are having on children. So, Ros, can you please just explain in more detail why you felt so compelled to put those videos up?
Sure. Just to say at the start, Sarah, I haven't actually lost my license. I've been suspended at this point. It's sort of a bit of a procedure. They've said that the first thing I must do is I must remove my videos from the internet. And then I haven't actually been told why I've been suspended. They've said that will take a few days to come through, but I know what the complaints or charges were. So yes, look, the reason I felt compelled to make the video, initially it was nothing to do with censorship. I didn't know that existed. I, as a psychologist working with children and families, was very, very concerned about the mental health impacts of the lockdowns. We live in an area that's a tourist area. We live in the Blue Mountains, and like so many of the tourist areas in New South Wales in the summer of 2019, 2020, that would be right, wouldn't it? We had that 6-month bushfire season. It was extraordinary. And then those bushfires were put out with these rains that sort of decimated a lot of the local tourist attractions themselves. And we were just, as a community, recovering from that because there was so much lost business because of the impact on tourism. And then we heard about coronavirus, which was this sort of thing out of the blue that had come on top. And that meant the cruise ships, as you'll remember, the cruise ships were involved very early on, and the cruise ships provide a huge amount of the tourist industry for certainly for the Blue Mountains. And so that was lost as well. And I knew I was instantly concerned about the effect on the adults' mental health primarily because they were already under so much stress. Businesses had closed, and with that, we knew many more would close. And so when coronavirus came along, and then we heard about the lockdowns, I just thought, my God, what's going to happen to the local community? And then, of course, to the children, because when the parents are very stressed, then that flows down to the children. Because, well, as you know, as a parent, stressed parents, not only is there just more stress in the household and are they less available emotionally for their children, but also things like, you know, domestic violence increases, alcoholism, all of the addictions increase, and they're always going to have a negative impact on the children. So, yeah, I was really concerned about mental health across the board.
Yeah, that's something that we really, I guess, have forgotten about because basically the Eastern Seaboard was affected by those fires. And my mum lives sort of south coast New South Wales, and there's a little town there, Lake Conjola, I think 90 homes lost. And so, excuse me, I've got my little corona baby underneath the table here. So not only, I guess it was a build-up. So not only was the lockdown, you know, stressful on everyone, but also the previous year was also stressful. So it was a build-up of everything. Yeah,
that's right. It really was. We were on our knees here, and I really mean that. We didn't lose as many houses as the South Coast and Lake Conjola and those areas that lost 100. They were decimated. There were certainly quite a few up here that were lost, but we lived in smoke for 6 months. We were all wearing those masks. Our houses were still covered in red dust and ash when people were talking about this coronavirus thing. And I did, initially, I think like most of us, we thought, oh, it's another swine flu, or not that wasn't a big thing, but never did we have any concept of what was about to come.
Absolutely. So can you just explain how you think, I guess, in terms of being pregnant? Because for me, I was pregnant last year. This is my little corona baby. So she was born in June. And for me, it was an incredibly stressful time financially. My husband had lost his work. He had no work. No one would employ me because I was pregnant. And I'm amazed that she's as calm as what she is. But
Yes.
are we seeing babies that are having issues, because of the stress that the mother was in during pregnancy?
Yeah, look, we certainly, I haven't seen data on that specifically in Australia, but what we certainly do know through in psychology, we sort of call them natural experiments, which is a horrible word, but things like, excuse me, got it. I have a cat on my lap, actually. So you have a daughter, I have a cat. She's making me a bit raspy. What we do know from terrible things that have happened, like September 11th, when a lot of the women that were pregnant lost their husbands who might have been firefighters. And even if they didn't, the women in New York, well, everywhere, were under enormous stress. And what we've seen is you can sort of look by trimester of pregnancy of the impact on the developing fetus or baby. And look, this isn't very straight cause and effect. Of course, there's enormous other impacts that go into this. Things like her own genetics, very importantly, her support network. Because if you were just, I don't know, a husband and a wife and had no other support system, and then she'd lost her husband, she would have been, a lot more affected. But what we do know is we can absolutely see the impacts on the babies, on those pregnancies during that time. And it would be the same, because what we know happens. So, for instance, we had this concept, I think the philosophers for many years had, there was a guy, John Locke, they called it tabula rasa. And they said a baby is born as a blank slate. So basically when it comes out at birth, you can turn it into anything you wanted, right? So if, for example, a baby was adopted right from the moment at birth, that baby would be a product of the family that it grew up in. However, now we know a lot more about that. Not only do we know about genetics, but we know about epigenetics, and we know that the genes that the baby is there at conception from mother and father, they then, during the entire time in the womb, are subject to the sort of the chemicals, the hormonal environment and the energetic environment in which they're sort of cooking, as it were. And so a very stressed mother there'll be a lot more stress chemicals and hormones in her womb and transferring to the baby, things like norepinephrine and cortisol and adrenaline, that sort of thing. And they signal to the baby, they signal to the developing fetus what sort of environment it's going to go into. And it's very clever, nature, I think. So if the mother is being very well looked after and supported, then that will be a healthy, safe environment. That's what the chemical signals the babies get. However, if it's an unsafe environment, then the baby will sort of read those triggers, and it will actually develop differently. The brain will wire up differently, and it will, the whole nervous system will come out more ready for sort of fight flight, because very cleverly the epigenetics is saying, right, you're going to be born into an unsafe environment. So the baby will come out, and again, there's genetic differences here, but they will be more, so the sort of survival parts of the brain, the fight flight, will be stronger and have more dominance than the sort of other parts that might have allowed more, more of a calmer life. And that's a good thing if we're being born into a sort of war-torn environment or that sort of thing. But it's, those changes are then very, very difficult. You can't just go and do a few psychology sessions and fix them. I'm not saying there's things we can't do, but you come out, with a different brain structure, with a slightly different brain structure. So it's it's huge. It's huge, and I don't think people realise that. It's enormous.
And what's the impact? So I think in Queensland, I'm not sure about. I think New South Wales, you still have to wear your mask. Victoria, everywhere, when you go outside, you have to wear your mask. Is there an effect that will have on children not seeing expressions?
Absolutely.
Because I know from me. I see. I'm in the Northern Territory, so we're not. We don't have to wear masks. Lucky, I know, so lucky. But I tell you, when we've had 2 little lockdowns. From my experience as an adult, I just feel sick walking through the supermarket, seeing this mask. And what I find really bizarre is that I have a friend who got sick twice. Got sick on a cruise, and the only person who was made to wear a mask was that person who was sick. So
with coronavirus. Yeah.
No,
so
no,
if
no,
you
no,
had
no.
COVID.
This is before coronavirus.
Oh,
So, you know, she was a sick one, so she had to wear a mask. I get that. If you're sick,
yeah,
wear a
makes
mask.
sense.
But
Yeah.
why are we asking healthy people to wear a mask? You know, that I don't understand that, and I just feel sick. It's
Yeah.
and I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But in terms of the effect that it's having on babies, not being able to see that human interaction, that the expressions on a being's face.
Yeah, look, it's a big one. I mean, I don't understand the mask thing. I've tried to follow what was said about masks. I gave up very early because they seem to keep changing their mind, and I'm very confused about the mask thing in terms of medical effects. So I can't talk to that. I can't talk to any of the medical stuff, of course, but what I can talk about is the psychological effects. I've talked in my videos about, and we've just talked about babies. I've talked about you know, young school children. I've talked about the older children. The one I didn't realize until actually this week was the impact. I just hadn't really taken it in, of the masks on the toddlers. And let me tell you about, can I tell you about a little experience I had a couple of days ago? I went out and I went to get a coffee, right? And I don't normally go. There's all these people gathering outside coffee shops, right? A lot of people go there for their daily interaction. This is one of the first times I've done it. And I was waiting in the queue, and there was a bench next to me. There were a lot of people queuing. There was a bench there with two parents and a pram. And how old's your daughter? So it's about a similar age.
She's 15 months.
15. Okay, this one was maybe a little bit younger, maybe about 12 months. And this little 12-month-old boy in a pram, and next to the pram was his parents. And the parents, and I'm not having a go at the parents, this is just the world we live in now, and I'm sure your listeners will recognize this. So parents on a bench, and both mum and dad were like this on their phones. Sorry, my cat's just scratching something. On their phones, right? They both had their masks on, which were kind of designer masks and matching their designer outfits, like this. And the baby was in the pram. And I've just grabbed a mask off my desk to show you this. I'm one of those people, and I think most of it, many of us are, right? Whereas if you see a little toddler, you just play games with them. So I had my mask on like this. Maybe I can do it with your daughter. Can we try?
Ellie, look.
We can't see her.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh no. Oh, there
she goes. You can see the start of a smile.
She's going, what is that? What is that?
Because
we don't have masks up here. She's going, that's just bizarre. There we go.
Ah, there she is. Hello. See that smile? It's so nice to see you. Isn't that interesting? You don't have masks up there. Well, there you go. So here's what happened. So usually a baby, when I do that, if they're a bit shy, the first time they'll no reaction. That's okay. Usually, the second time you'll get that little, just, you know, even little crinkle. And then by the third, they're up. So I was doing this, I got up to the seventh time. And because as I was doing it, I sort of realized in the background, I thought, oh my God, I hadn't thought about this. So I was up to the seventh time of doing these silly faces. The parents had no idea, right? They were like this. They didn't even know I was interacting. And by the seventh time, I thought, no, I can see you're in there. I can see behind your eyes. I can see you're in there and you're a bit curious. By the seventh time, finally, that little kind of dimple, first one came. And then on it went. And by the end, he was laughing. And then when the parents pushed him off in the pram, he was sort of turning around looking for me. But I thought, you know, we used to do this all day long. If you'd be in the supermarket queue, if you're in the bank queue, if you're in the other queue, there'll always be, you know, a granny or a whatnot. Some men do it too. They're not so much, but there'll be someone, especially the grannies and the aunties, and they do, hello. And that, while people might be listening and saying, yeah, so what? That's just kind of a cute thing. It doesn't really matter. Oh, yes, it does matter, because that is how our brains wire up. All this stuff that we do with babies, all that, you know, sort of chubby cheek cooching back and forth, we call it serve and return, where we, you know, especially at this age, we're eye to eye contact all the time, and we're mirroring their emotions. It's the most important part, is the clear water of good mental health as to how they develop the ability to emotionally regulate in later life. When you're like this, like, can you tell if I'm angry or if I'm furious?
Nothing. It's just the same. It's horrible. You might as well just be in a whole bloody suit.
This is, and you know what, we talk about critical periods. There are real critical periods and sensitive periods in the development of a baby and a toddler and a child, but really at this age, where you've got a window of opportunity for different parts of the brain to wire up. And if you miss that opportunity, I'm not saying, because absolutely neuroplasticity is a thing, and we do a lot of work with it, but my goodness, the amount of work that you have to do, and a lot of it you can't undo. So let's take an extreme example. Let's take a baby who has grown up in a I don't know, maybe in Melbourne or in the Northern Hemisphere, where they've had 6 months of lockdown in a council flat with 5 other children and DV, domestic violence, going on. You know, and during a pregnancy of similar, that's really hard. That's a really big problem. What worries me the most, and I, again, at the start, I just thought the government didn't realise, is that this sort of thing, this is how, you know, people talk about things like psychopathy and narcissistic personality disorder and all these things. There's so much in the sort of popular psych about them these days. You know, are you married to a narcissist and whatnot, as though they're sort of these evil people that were just put on this earth or genetically there. No, they're not. They're just people that had a certain set of genes and then had attachment wounds growing up. And these are attachment wounds we're talking about. So actually, we have the potential. What we're doing right now is creating a tsunami of personality disorders, what we call personality disorders, in the not too distant future. And that's it's extraordinary. It's catastrophic, and nobody seems that worried about it. That's why I made my video. I thought they just didn't understand. I really did. I thought they just didn't realize you know, because we've not been in a war situation in our generation.
No, that's right.
Generation, a whole sort of most of the living population. I thought they just didn't realize. So I was trying to make a video letting them know, because no one else was. I don't know why all of the big mental health professional bodies didn't. I think they're all so scared because we were all so threatened. You know, you can face disciplinary action. Everyone was being threatened with this, that, and the other. And I just couldn't watch anymore. I couldn't watch anymore. There were too many children. I was working with all these kids that we call the COVID kindies, who were the ones that were in kindergarten last year, now the first graders, who are in a terrible state. And the teachers were saying, what on earth happened? And we, you know, the same's going to come through next year, because this year's been even harder, although we didn't have the bushfire season for us. And they're better at homeschooling, absolutely. They sort of know what they're doing. Last year they had no clue.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the solution moving forward, obviously the masks have a big impact on that. And the lockdowns, you know, being shut off away from people. Surely there's got to be another way.
The lockdowns are extraordinary. And the thing is, and this is sort of where I found out about the censorship, and it took me a long time to get my head around the extent of the censorship. I existentially couldn't handle it as a 2021 Aussie, the free good country, who watches ABC and well, I don't actually watch much TV, but if I did, SBS, ABC, Media Watch, right? I'd never watch any of those 7/9 Alan Jones kind of things. And that's one of the biggest problems, because people think this is a left and right issue, and it is absolutely not. But the lockdowns, there are tens of thousands of highly credentialed experts, emeritus professors, and, you know, professors of epidemiology, professors of vaccine science, who've worked in the vaccine industry for years, who are saying, stop the lockdowns, you're causing far more harm. And I think the problem is people, because we've been put into these two buckets, you're either a lefty scientific intellectual or you're a crazy anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist, that we're not understanding that it's not crazy anti-vax conspiracy theorists. There might be some there, and I don't like those terms, obviously, but there are really highly credentialed people over here that are just saying, yeah, coronavirus is a real thing, and it's a danger to a lot of people, to immune compromised, to elderly. we need to, and that's what they said at the start, interestingly, we need to really focus on looking after them. But now it's turned into this thing that's dangerous to everyone. They're coercing everyone to get these vaccinations that all these vaccine scientists who are completely censored are saying are completely unnecessary. And not only that, they are saying, not me, I don't have a medical expertise, they are saying they are causing enormous vaccine injuries and potentially very, very damaging. And we must use a precautionary principle and wait and look and have these open debates. And that's all when I did realize the censorship, once I recovered from that, because I think, I'm not sure if I said to you, I ended up in hospital with the stress of this when I had ulcerative colitis. I lost 2 stone. I could not believe that there was this level of censorship in Australia. It's like everything I knew wasn't true. And so all I was asking for, and I am asking for still, although the government's completely ignored me, even though it's gone everywhere, is to have an open debate. Why in 2021 are we not allowed open debate? It's extraordinary. And have an open debate, get them, all of these scientists, not me, but not the government. They have no medical expertise, because if they'd have done their due diligence properly, they would have known that there was all of this scientific debate. Get them on an international stage and get them all debating this stuff, and find out who's got industry links, right? Find out who's got any disciplinary procedures against them, and let's all watch and let's all listen. And if it turns out it is some big conspiracy and we do all need to be vaccinated, I will sprint to the front of that queue. Absolutely. Because I'm still not vaccinated yet. I was going to be, and then I got so sick that the doctor said, just wait. And I'd had a lot of friends, I'm 51, I'd had quite a few of my girlfriends who had really bad effects to the vaccines. And I was, they still went in and got their second or whatnot. And it wouldn't have put me off. But when I got very sick, I thought, no, I'm a single parent as well. I couldn't risk that. So I was waiting. But now, no, I'm not going to have this vaccine. It's not even a vaccine. It's not even past its clinical trials. It's some experimental thing that its inventor, Dr. Robert Malone, who is part of the team that invented the mRNA vaccine, he's saying, we need to stop. We need to really look at this, because he has grave concerns. So if he has grave concerns, why aren't we listening to him? Why are we listening to regulatory bodies in government that don't even have science degrees? That doesn't make sense to me.
I have something really interesting to add to that. Well, number one, why are we not told build your immune system up? Take your vitamins, vitamin D, C, zinc. Why are we not taking vitamins? Why is Macca's still open? So they go and shut all these other businesses, but they don't shut Macca's. Wow.
Yeah. All shops.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other interesting thing that I heard the other day, I heard someone going to the doctor's surgery and they wanted to get the Pfizer jab, and they said, look, can I just have a list of ingredients? I just want to do my own research each ingredient. And they said, we actually can't provide that. And they said, hang on a minute, my doctor tells me I need to read stuff on the back of a food packaging, but you're telling me to inject something into my body and I don't know what's in it.
Yeah, wow.
We've really got to wake up and start asking questions. This is not about pro or anti. Exactly. This is about, let's be logical about this.
That's it.
And let's take a step back and go, okay, that's fine. You're telling us to get this. Can we just have a look into it ourselves? Because let's face it, you look at the science previous, they were wrong about asbestos. They were wrong about smoking. So, I'm not saying that they're wrong about this necessarily, but we need to be looking, we need more time.
Precautionary principle. Do you know what I think the biggest problem is that we have in Australia, and you might know, I can't remember, it's a long time since I studied it, tripartite separation of powers, right? Judiciary, legislative, executive, correct? And that's been around for a long time. What we need is the, what would it be? Hex-partite separation of powers. So those three, but you need to have industry, the big corps, right? We know from what Dr. Marcia Engel said, who is the long-time editor of the NEJM, the #1 impact factor medical journal. She said, the quote won't be right, something along the lines of, it gives me no pleasure to say this, but I simply can't do this work anymore because all of these top-tier randomized control trials, which everyone puts forward as the, you know, the doyen of research, they're all pharma, right? They're all run by pharma. So we need them to be separate, but we also need the media to be separate. And media, yes, I'm talking to you because you have been absolutely appalling in this. It's not your job to censor people. It's not your job to censor qualified medical opinion. You've got a degree in communications, not medicine. And then thirdly, it needs to be, academia, right? Academia. And now I think the figure is something like 90% of research funding has to come from industry or be aligned with industry objectives. That's what I was told when I was doing my PhD. I couldn't believe it. And people just sort of, even all these other PhD students, they were just like, okay, like, really? Do people not see that? It's extraordinary, extraordinary. I can't believe, you know, we think we're so evolved, don't we? We're in 2021 Australia, and all these people are just walking around, oh yeah, no, that's okay. It's not okay. It's ridiculous, and it has caused so much harm, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop.
Absolutely.
We got a bit political there, didn't we? Whoops.
Yeah.
I'm suspended now, so it doesn't even matter. Yeah. And can I just say one final thing? I was told by the Psychology Board of Australia that in order to, well, even start the process of looking at, is that unsuspending? Is that even a word? Myself, it's not. Removing my suspension, that I needed to take down my videos. And I will say this, not only will I not take them down, I will make more. And I am now doing a raft of interviews to explain what's gone on, because, you know, the three biggest important things to me in life are honesty, integrity, and ethics. And that is how I've done this work. There is no, and has never been any complaint about my practice as a psychologist. And all the families that I've worked with have been very happy with our work together. They have done this to me because they don't like me speaking out. And I would do it 1,000 times again, and I would end up in hospital again, because people are dying. People are dying from this. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. And we've got to stop it. And if it ends my career, then fine. I'll just make more videos.
Well, thank you for being so brave and speaking out.
We need more. Brave. I'm very frightened, actually.
No, it is frightening times, but you are brave, because I haven't really seen a video of a psychologist coming out saying, look at the mental health impact this is having on people. You hear about the debate about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, the vaccines. Yeah. We hear about that time and time again, but we're not hearing about the mental health of people. So thank you so much for speaking.
You're welcome. There's a lot more coming. I'll just say that, because we now have a group of hundreds of psychologists growing internationally after my video that all said, thank goodness I wasn't the only one, and they're all going to start making videos. So
excellent. Well, I look forward to watching them. So we'll wrap it up there. I know your time is very precious. Thank you so much, Ros, for coming on. And we might be able to do this again another time. And that's my little Corona baby in the background.
Where is she?
Bye. So thank you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. All the best, Sarah.